My name is Dr. Monica Band. I care about destigmatizing mental health for minority populations, particularly those who are racial and ethnic minorities, and of course my own community, of which I identify, the AAPI community, otherwise known as the Asian American Pacific Islander community. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Virginia and Washington, D.C., where I own and am a part of a wonderful group practice, and we serve the larger community within the DMV. I think from a very macro perspective, and my why has certainly evolved and changed over time, but I really do believe the practice of therapy or the practice of counseling when you're sitting with someone is one of the most basic human experiences you can have. And as a humanist myself, there's nothing more powerful or transformative or healing as being in front of someone and working with them through their struggles, their vulnerabilities, and what concerns them. My motivations for being a counselor comes from my intersecting identities, and it's hard and almost, I think, impossible to tease them apart. Growing up, I didn't know the likes of Kimberly Crenshaw. I didn't know the likes of Audre Lorde or some of the foundational Black women activists who were already putting names to things that I was experiencing at the time as a kid. And the complexity of all that didn't make sense to me as a kid. I didn't have words to describe racism or microaggressions or systemic oppression. But I knew that there was something different about my experience, and that, unfortunately, at the time, other people around me didn't relate to, or in solidarity didn't experience, didn't really have any visibility. I didn't see any counselors that looked like me. I didn't see many people that looked like me. I didn't grow up with people outside of my family that looked like me. And so it wasn't until later on in my master's program, when I was studying to be a rehab counselor, that I found a cohort that had a variety of experiences that were similar. And through their own racial and ethnic diversity and other intersecting parts, we were able to form some really deep connections and friendships through that. My journey in becoming a counselor, valuing mental health, I think had always been there, but I think it was through, unfortunately, I was motivated through what was lacking, what I saw was lacking in my own community as it relates to BIPOC communities, particularly in focusing on AAPI communities. I really do think the first part is visibility. As it relates to counseling, there are very few AAPI counselors and few AAPI counselor educators, and so visibility is important, and I believe it's important to me because it's a validation of our existence. I think growing up, when you've experienced intergenerational trauma and systemic racism, there are systems there to push up against that belief that you're not important and that you don't belong. So I think visibility is the most important. I think we, as counselors, could be doing more to invest in minority communities, to share and spread the message that therapy, counseling is a viable option for people. The other part of that, though, specific to AAPI communities, is that we are comprised of approximately 50 ethnic groups in over 100 languages. And so it's very common to be talking about AAPI issues as a monolith, that all Asians are similar. The language piece, the language barrier is another aspect of this, because while there are folks who have learned English, there are many foreign-born folks who English is not their first language, and there's even more disparities when it comes to those subgroups in our elder population. We as counselors are up against a lot in describing how this very westernized version of mental health is one that is appropriate for this particular population. Creating an environment that addresses what counseling is in the first place and how it can help in combination with or integrated with other types of healing could be helpful to this particular community. COVID has changed the modality and accessibility to our clients and communities. I think in a lot of ways there are people across the states of which I'm licensed that I would not be able to reach if it wasn't for shifting to telehealth. But I think it's opened up an opportunity for us to expand our message and to reach people who didn't maybe perhaps feel safe at first going into an office, being able to do that in a comfortable setting. Particularly when it comes to BIPOC communities and their mental health, I think we as a whole have gone on too long in believing that our issues don't matter and we don't matter. I truly believe that this could be a wonderful option and a space to be able to reconnect with yourself and reconnect with your identity and communities and ancestors in the way that you and I perhaps have lost that.